everyone, and welcome to the Battle to Be Trauma Transformation podcast. And my name is Krista Fee, and I'll be your host tonight. And I have with me an amazing, amazing person that I can't wait to introduce to you. And we've had the privilege of having a couple conversations, and I could talk with this person for hours. So I want to introduce to you a phenomenal artist and someone who is making waves, bringing awareness and attention to PTSD for all of our military, our police, our firefighters, and all of our first responders. And he doesn't leave anyone out. And please welcome Daniel Sundahl.
All right, thanks, Krista. Thanks for having me on your show.
You are one of my favorite people already. I already know that.
Is it the shirt? Is it because of the shirt I'm wearing?
And I love the shirt too.
It's my Be Kind shirt, just to remind everybody just to be kind.
And all it takes is a few seconds to smile or say something nice.
Yeah, I get a lot of reactions when I wear this shirt out in public. I have another one that has the chemistry for Be Nice. I can't remember what's BE and then NI and whatever, CE or whatever they are. But and not everyone gets it, but if it says Be Nice. So I wear that, and some people get it and some people don't. But I get a ton of comments on that shirt and this shirt when I wear it outside. Which
anything to make people smile.
I know, right? I know.
So
it's not that hard.
I always start the show by asking the most basic of questions, because we all like to talk about what we do and we all like to talk about the labels that we have. But who are you as a person?
All right. Well, my real name is Daniel Sundahl, so I take the first three letters of my first and last name to get my artist name. And I'm a paramedic firefighter. I've been a full-time paramedic firefighter since 2003. I live in Canada and Alberta, near the Rockies. And I create artwork to help purge, and it's my therapy to fend off the bad memories I have and the effects of the job that I have.
And he has cute dogs.
Yeah, I've got two bulldogs. They're related. One's a mom and one's the pup. And we have a 17-year-old Shih Tzu poodle that's like just fur and skin and scabs, and he's deaf and blind, but he's still very loyal, even though he can't see or hear or do anything. But so we have three dogs, married, 3 stepkids. No, everything's good.
I always think it's really funny. First responders have a tendency to have pets that are children.
Yes. Yeah. So all our kids are out of the house now. So yeah, it's just me and my wife and our 3 dogs, which is great. And then
I think it's a compassion thing.
Yeah. Well, for me, like the dogs are therapy too. They're our bulldog, our new bulldog. She's a therapy dog. She can sense if someone is not feeling good, and then she just won't leave you alone. She'll be all over you, which is great. More so than their other 2 dogs. She has a really good sense of how people are feeling, which is wonderful.
I think it's a bully breed thing. I have a boxer that is the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like little people. They got tons of personality. Yeah.
So, of course, let's get to the nitty gritty. I mentioned that you're an artist.
Yes.
What kind of art do you do?
So I create digital art. I really don't know. People ask me that, and I'm not a traditional artist where I put paint onto canvas, and I'm not a traditional photographer. So photographers don't give me credit because I edit photos and manipulate the photos so much that sometimes they don't even resemble the original photos that I take. And then I don't get really credit from the art community because I'm not a traditional paint on canvas. I'm not a real artist. So I'm kind of in the middle of that's why I say call it photo art, or it's like digital art, or it's this new, well, I guess it's not a new medium, but it's how I create and express my feelings and how I create my artwork, which is very personal to me. And I use that to purge the garbage that I acquire in my head. And so it's very personal, and that's how I do it. And I'm just lucky that my peers connect to it through their own experiences. I've been really blessed that way.
Well, in each piece of your art, you make it sound so simple when you say that it's photo manipulation. There's an entire process that goes into from conceptualization to the fulfillment and then the final product. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's how I judge a picture when I'm done, is based on the image that pops into my head versus what I actually end up with. So it starts with an experience or an emotion that I've had as an emergency worker. And I kind of meditate on that feeling, and an image will pop inside my head. So that image will pop in my head, which will represent that complex idea. And then I stage that photo using my peers that are real emergency workers. And I photograph it. And then I digitally draw on top of the photograph. And while I'm doing that, I try to recreate more so what I felt versus what I saw. And it takes a week or so to do that. So there's a lot of emotion in that. And that's where I add, the ghosts and the devils. And I use the demons for trauma and angels for recovery. And I'll put the spirits of patients in there. And that's when I do that, when I digitally draw and paint on top of the photograph. And then when I'm done, as if it matches that initial idea that I had in my head that popped in, that image that popped in my head, then that's a successful art piece. Sometimes it's not very successful, and other times it is very successful to me anyways, but I share them anyways. And sometimes they really hit home with my peers because of their experiences. And a lot of times I don't like to share the motivation behind some of them because I don't want to, devalue someone else's interpretation of it based on what they've experienced in their work. Because just because I created it doesn't mean it's more authentic. It doesn't mean it's more real or more valid because I created it based on my emotions. It doesn't matter. I don't think artwork works that way. It's individual, I think.
I think that's why I connected with you so hard. I'm going to tell you guys just a little bit. I ran into his artwork accidentally, and I have a background in emergency room tech, and my husband is a retired firefighter, and both of us have done a lot of rescue work, so accident scenes, post-accident, and that kind of stuff. So I was just perusing the internet, and I just, in a search that had nothing to do with artwork or anything like that, one of Daniel's images popped up. And it took me literally it was a physical jolt. The image literally sent me to an experience, to a memory. And it was such a visceral moment. It was literally the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings that were happening, but it was also the memory was really vibrant too. And I don't want to say triggered because it wasn't a negative experience. It was just so grounded in the reality of that particular moment, and just how intense and how intense is the perfect word, just how intense that moment was. And it was all captured in this one image. And the more that I stared at this picture, the more layers became clear. And your artwork is really intimate and really detailed. And I think people who see it for the first time will miss a lot of the different subtleties and the layers and the details that are hidden in there.
Yeah, and a lot of those details completely change the idea of the picture. There are some pictures where you first look at it and it may appear to be like a sad image. And then you'll see this other detail that you may not have seen the first 3 or 4 times you looked at it. And you might see a hidden angel or a hidden demon in there that's being defeated. And that really changes the whole idea of the picture. So yeah, a lot of people say that they're always looking for things, and I don't hide things in all the pictures that I do, but I try to make them as accurate as I can. I try to be as vulnerable as I can and authentic to my own experiences, because then if I'm authentic to my own experiences as a paramedic and firefighter, then I know that my peers will connect with them. And that's not even why I create the artwork. I create it for myself and for my own, like the concept art by art, I say. So the kind of the weird stuff that I create, it's based on my own experiences. And that's part of my healing process. That's part of my therapy. So I have to be authentic to myself. So I can't think, what are people going to think about this? Is this over the top? Or, is this too much gore? Or is this, I can't censor it, because then I'm not authentic to myself. And then that healing process isn't going to happen. I'm not going to purge that from my mind if I censor it in any way. So often when I create a new art piece and I share it, I'm a bit worried. I'm like, oh, what are people going to think of this one? This one's really out there. What are they going to think? And some people do not react well and other people do. But I think for artwork, any artwork, I think if you look at it and you get that gut punch when you look at it, and that gut punch may be really bad. Like you may look at it and just viscerally hate it. Like you'd be like, oh, I hate that picture so much. I don't know why. That's good artwork. Again, that's not why I create it. But if it has an effect on you, like that image that you were talking about, that really affected you, but other people may look at it and have no effect on them whatsoever. So it's really in the eye of the beholder that's looking at the artwork. And if it can cause some type of emotional response, then I think that's like the artists that I really like and enjoy. That's what they do for me. I look at them and I get an emotional response from them, and it tells a story. It says something. That's what I think is good artwork.
I absolutely agree. That is, in my mind, that's the definition of art. If it makes you feel something, that is art.
Even if you hate it, doesn't have to be
right?
Good. Right?
No one says you have to enjoy it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
No, I absolutely couldn't be more in agreement that is an important aspect, that the artist should feel something. And you want the viewer to feel something as well. And if the artist feels something, usually that is transferred at least in some way to the viewer. So that authenticity is critical. It's critical.
Yeah, it has to be that way. So I can't, and I get a lot of criticism about the artwork that I do. People think it's too graphic. They think it's, it's gratuitous. I add stuff just to sensationalize it, and I don't. None of it is real photography. Like none of it is actual photos of actual calls. They're all staged, and any trauma that's in there, I Photoshop it in there. So when people think it's real, I take it as a compliment, because they must think it's an actual photo. But I don't add extra stuff. That's what I actually saw. That's what we see. So I don't censor that. My mom doesn't like my artwork. I create a new art piece and she's like, "Damn, why is it so gross? Why is there so much? I don't understand." But that's totally fine. She doesn't get it. It's not for her, but she has a response to it. So it's good artwork. And initially I was really surprised that people even enjoyed my artwork or even connected to it. I was worried when I first started doing this back in 2014, 2015, that my peers I thought for sure they would not accept it at all. Because the first couple of pictures that I did were showing his paramedic firefighter being very vulnerable with his gloved hands on his head, which is disgusting. And I was really worried to share that because I didn't think people would really connect to it. But to my surprise, my peers really did, and it's changed my life really.
I think most of us have had that moment. Though, I mean, literally, like it's a moment that happens in that industry when you have a loss, when you lose a patient, when you feel like you could have done more and you couldn't. I completely resonate with that.
Yeah, but back then we didn't really even talk about that stuff. Like people weren't as vocal about it back in 2014 as they are today. So I was really worried that I'd be really crucified, which is fine. It wouldn't matter because I would just keep creating the artwork, but just not share with anybody. But yeah, the exact opposite happened. And so because of that, one of my leading or my goals or my values is to be vulnerable and be authentic. I have to remain that way to continue to be a successful artist. And I think most artists are that way. I think it's a good way to start.
Well, and you open the door for conversation. You open the door for understanding. When people see what the industry, for lack of a better word, when people see what first responders go through, when people see what the police officers go through, when they have even just a moment of that physical reaction, of that emotional response, it gives them just a slight little crack of light to connect with someone who is suffering from PTSD or some variation of a trauma spectrum injury that, you know, is having rage moments, is having ups and down days, and, you know, all of the different symptoms that people don't want to deal with, that people don't understand, to see what is seen, to see what causes that, to see that life just in an instant will open at least the door for conversation, if not a little bit of understanding. And I think that is the most valuable thing outside of your own healing that's coming from this brave artwork.
Yeah, I think what's even healed me just as much as creating that work for myself is recognizing or being aware that so many other people, so many other emergency workers connect to the artwork through similar experiences, which makes me feel that I'm not alone. And that concept or that idea of knowing that you're not alone, you know, I'll post a picture and it gets shared a million times and, you know, there's thousands of comments on it. And I'll read those comments and I'll see like, yeah, you know, this, I'm not alone in how I'm feeling. I'm not alone in why I decided to create this artwork. It's very common amongst many of us. And that's really healing. Like that's very powerful. And that's powerful for me to know that my peers connect to my artwork, because that tells me that they have similar experiences and similar feelings and are responding in similar ways, which means I'm not as crazy as I maybe think I am, or maybe it's more normal that I'm behaving this way or thinking this way. Right. So that's very powerful for me.
And you touched on a lot of the people that I work with, the primary need that people with PTSD have is to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And that's really the basic need we all have. But your art allows that for you. It allows you to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And it also opens doorways for other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I'm very lucky. I play the guitar too, but I'm not very good. So people don't ask me to interview me on their podcast show because of my guitar playing, but it doesn't matter. It's still very healing for me. So I play my guitar every day because it's therapy for me. And even right now, you know, I talk about post-traumatic growth and, you know, I lecture on, you know, getting healing and getting recovery and then becoming better than you were, you know, that phoenix rising. But the reality is that I'm up and down. And right now I'm relapsing. So I've had these other symptoms come back in that I recognized. So I'm going back into treatment, and right now I'm not doing good, to be honest. But I recognize what happened to me, and I'm getting the help that I need. So today I had a complete comprehensive psychiatric evaluation assessment, which was all day. For those of you that have had that, then you know what I mean. It's an entire 8-hour day of questions about, you know, suicide and, you know, anger and my relationships with other people, and so that they can kind of reassess my diagnosis, which was originally done in 2014. But so that's part of the process too, though, is recognizing what's happening and knowing that, you know, you're going to have good days and bad days. And when you have bad days, it's okay. Do what you have to do to get better, instead of just hoping that, you know, tomorrow's going to be a better day. Tomorrow's going to be a better day, and putting yourself at risk. You know, in my case, putting my patients at risk, putting my coworkers at risk. I can't, you know, that's not responsible for me to do that. So I'm went back in and getting the help that I need and getting reassessed, and just to see if my diagnosis has changed. But I'm a little bit messed up, but that's okay, because I'm doing something about it, and I'm getting the treatment that I need and the help that I need. And sometimes that happens. So even though I talk and lecture about post-traumatic growth, and people think that I'm this mental health superhero. No, that's not how it works. It doesn't. Once you do the work, it doesn't mean you're the superhero all the time. You have good days and bad days, but do what you have to do to get better again. And I'm 100% confident that I'm going to get better again because I've done it before. But this weird stuff, these weird symptoms started sneaking in, symptoms that I've never had before, like really weird memory loss things and really weird feelings of disassociation where I'd wake up and I'd feel like I was a visitor in my own body, where I'd feel like, and this is happening not at this moment, but currently, in a few days, kind of some days are better than others, but I'll recognize my environment, but it won't be familiar to me. So it's like I'm visiting, and that's never happened before. That didn't happen to me when I first got diagnosed. But since I first got diagnosed, I've worked another 8 years on the ambulance and fire truck. So this trauma I describe it as as a tooth where the enamel gets worn away, right? And then you just have this exposed nerve. And the more exposed I feel I am, then the more susceptible I am to these other symptoms that I have that I've never had before. And I'm going to include these symptoms in my lecture when I talk about it, because it's important for me that I'm open about it and I share it and I'm vulnerable and I'm authentic that, hey, this is what's happening to me. Stuff is going on and I'm experiencing these new weird symptoms, which are really freaked me out, and I recognize them and I'm getting the help that I need.
And that's another important thing for everyone who's listening to be aware of and to understand, that healing is not a linear process. It is full of twists and turns. Sometimes you're going backwards, sometimes you're going forwards. And there are times along the healing pathway, along the healing journey, when you might feel worse than you did in the beginning. And in cases where trauma is just compounding, you never get it. You can't heal from trauma when you're still experiencing trauma. So ultimately, you're learning coping strategies, you're learning resilience strategies, you're learning how to get some of the pressure and some of the stuff on the surface, but you're never able to get fully to the root of everything and really heal yourself until you are finally no longer experiencing all of these traumas day in and day out. So...
And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know what after this assessment, it's going to go in and then they're going to come up with some treatment plans. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I hope I can get better and get back to work, but who knows? I don't know. But regardless, I'm going to be doing artwork. This is just giving me more material for my artwork, really. So it's totally fine. But I recognize it, and I'm doing something about it. That's the important thing, and that's something I learned that first part when I recognized and I rewired my brain, and I did feel that I still feel I'm in post-traumatic growth phase even now, because I'm recognizing this as something I need to do, and that's something I may not have recognized before, and I would have just stayed at work and suffered until something maybe would have happened to myself or someone else. So I think it's really important to recognize these things and do what you have to do to get better.
Right. And you would tell people, obviously, because you just did, that if they're suffering from these symptoms, to reach out, to seek out help. Don't try to do it yourself. Don't wait.
No, it's really hard. And I've done artwork about that, where it's, sometimes you lose. When this first happened to me in 2014, I didn't have the capacity to even understand what was going on. And I was suicidal then. I had a death plan, and I thought that was normal, right? I would go to work and still be an effective paramedic and firefighter, and then have a death plan, and I didn't recognize that was wrong, because I didn't have the capacity to recognize that there was something wrong, that I needed help. So how am I supposed to help myself if I don't know that I'm even injured, right? I've done lots of art pieces on that. And because that's really scary. A lot of places they'll say, well, Dan, we have all these mental health support programs for people that, if they feel that they have these things, they can reach out. I'm like, well, they may not even know that they're injured. So how And I kind of relate it to fishing, where you can't go fishing and expect the fish to jump in the boat. You need to look for signs and fish for them. And it's no different than looking for signs and symptoms of people that may be suffering that they don't even know they're in trouble. And there's lots of signs and symptoms out there that you can recognize. And you can track certain calls that people have done. And, if there's a paramedic or police officer in emergency work that's done, let's say, 3 pediatric suicides in a month or a couple of weeks, then that should be tracked, and that should raise red flags, and someone should reach out and say, hey, we recognize that, we see that you've done some pretty hairy calls lately. We're just checking in to see how you're doing. Right. And then that might be what that person needs to kind of diffuse and debrief that situation. Otherwise, nothing may happen. It may just fester and grow. But so there are things that you can do. But yeah, for me, it was the longest time I just thought the next day would be better. Right. I feel horrible today, but tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better. And it never was. It's like, you have a busted leg. Yeah, tomorrow the leg will be better. No, it's just going to get infected and get worse until you lose your leg. So you need to get help. You need to recognize to ask for help, or someone needs to reach in there and grab you out. In my case, and lots of other cases, because since then I've talked to thousands of my peers, and we've all had similar situations and similar experiences. Very common.
Yeah, this is the story I hear too. So that you don't know you need help until you know you need help.
Yeah.
And something has to happen to bring to the forefront that you need help. So it's usually a partner or work or somebody else who says, you need help or you're not coming back to work, or you need help or I'm walking out of this house. Somebody else has to shake it loose before people realize that what they're experiencing isn't just normal.
Yeah. And unfortunately, if that doesn't happen, we hear about our brothers and sisters who take their lives and we're shocked and surprised. We had no idea that they were suffering, or we had no idea that they were hurting, because we get so good at faking it. It's the false okay, where we pretend that everything is okay, and people don't know until it's too late. And that, God, it happens all the time. You're always hearing of emergency workers who take their lives. It's still happening all the time, right? A lot of times people aren't totally unaware that they were even suffering. It's terrible. Yeah.
Well, that is definitely part of the mission. Well, obviously mine and yours. And you're doing public speaking also now to bring more awareness and to educate.
Yeah, which is kind of really weird in my current state of mind to be, but I'm not telling people, I'm not proclaiming to be a mental health guru. My message is that I'm authentic, and I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a therapist. But what I do is I just share my experiences, and I share what I do for my therapy to get better, hoping that maybe my peers will recognize maybe some of the symptoms I have in themselves and do something similar, at least get assessed and get the help that they need. So for me, whether I'm feeling that I'm a mental health superhero, or if I feel like I'm struggling, I'm still going to share my story, and I'm still going to speak about it. And based on how I'm feeling at that time, I'm going to share what's going on. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything is okay right now, because it's not. My chemistry in my brain is a little bit messed up right now. So, but that happens. That's what happens. So it's okay. And I'm getting the help that I need. So I do public speak on post-traumatic growth, which is weird, but I still consider even the situation I'm in now to be post-traumatic growth, because I'm talking about it and I'm recognizing it. And I don't think I would have done that if I didn't have that experience before.
Right. You're taking steps. And as long as you're taking steps, you're on that healing pathway. You're on that healing journey. It doesn't always feel good.
I've been on before. Yeah, it's a path I've been on before, so it's not new to me. My symptoms are new, and what's really kind of surprised me is that I had these new symptoms arise, and which kind of freaked me out. But but the process and the journey's not new for me. I've been here before.
And if you don't mind my asking, and you can definitely say that you're not comfortable saying what steps you take, what resources do you typically go for? What has helped you?
Well, we have, well, I don't know, because I just had my CPA today, my complete comprehensive psychiatric evaluation or assessment today. So based on what the psychologist found when he did a deep dive in my brain, they're going to come up with a treatment plan. But it's probably going to be EMDR. It's probably good. There's lots of different treatments, even more and more coming out every day, that they're going to decide on what's going to be best for me. And whatever they say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I've done EMDR before and it worked really good. Sometimes there has been a couple sessions where it really triggered me and I didn't like it because I kind of really had to relive stuff. So there's art therapy now, not like art. It's accelerated. I can't remember what it's called, accelerated reintegration therapy or something, but it's a bit less triggering. But there's lots of different modalities, and we have a program up here in Canada where there's a traumatic psychological injury program that they may suggest I go in, which I'll be happy to do. So my treatment plan hasn't been decided yet. It was going to be based on this. So, but however, I recognize those signs, and I went and did the paperwork and got the help and the assessment that I need. Right, so I'm on the right path to recovery, versus just hoping that tomorrow's going to be a better day. So I don't know what my treatment plan is going to be yet.
But you said you've done EMDR before. That is one of the most common go-tos here in the US. Mm-hmm. Also, it's considered one of the most successful. I feel like art, creative expression that focuses you into a memory and allows you to reintegrate the emotions and the feelings that are associated with that memory. I feel like it almost mimics that EMDR process in a natural, accidental kind of way.
Yeah, I think it does. And I'm also able to change my memories about it. And that's what I wish I could remember what the ART stands for. Should have done some prep for this, but I'm able to alter my memories of certain calls that I've done through the artwork. So instead of certain visions popping into my head because of the calls I've been on, once I'm completed the artwork, those images don't pop in my head anymore. And I remember when I recall that event, I recall the artwork that I did instead, because I essentially transfer that into that art piece. And I put so much energy and emotion into that art piece while thinking about that call. That's what I relate it to now. And I can make that image anything I want, right? So it doesn't have to be, what I actually saw. I can change it into something a bit more, I can alter my memory of it to the way I want, which is, like I said, I'm not a therapist, but I feel like I walked into a big vein of gold when I figured out I could do this for myself, because it's been super healing for me.
Absolutely. And that's the magic of brain science. That trick with your memories, with your hippocampus and that storage, you literally can't tell the difference between your real experiences, your memories, and imagined experiences and memories. So you can visualize and your brain doesn't know the difference. So you hit on that you actually have the ability, and we know this scientifically, you have the ability to change your memories. Mm-hmm. And by changing your memories, you're changing your emotional attachment and your emotional response to those memories. So you can literally go back and erase the trauma for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a magical process.
And I just happened to stumble on that with the artwork by accident. So I'm really lucky. But yeah, there's other. So yeah, we'll see what happens because I'm experiencing symptoms I've never had before. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing new things but yeah, there's lots of different things that still, like gangular blocks and ketamine therapy and havening. Havening is a fairly new thing that's happening. And yeah, there's lots of different treatments coming out more and more all the time, which I think is great. I think the more options that we have, the better. So
I think choice is a huge part of the equation. because there's so many people who are afraid to seek help, to seek therapy, and they may not necessarily like working with a therapist per se. So having, a list of, there's 20 different ways you can approach this. What works for you? What feels most comfortable to you? What fits your lifestyle? Making it more of something that people have control over to some extent when they feel like they have no control is a valuable part of the puzzle. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think everyone has their own, some people love equine therapy is their magic pill. That's connecting to a horse. That's their therapy. And that's what really does it for them. So we each have to find what that is for us that really fixes us. And it's different for everybody. Not everyone likes black coffee. Some people want like a extra large triple mocha latte with extra sprinkles on it, right? That's what makes them feel better. But it's just mental trauma stuff. It's not as obvious. Like, I don't even know what's going to help me this time. And so I don't know. So I'm wanting the experts to tell me what they think based on what they found when they went inside my brain today, what they feel is going to be beneficial for me. And I'm going to do whatever they say. So we'll see what happens. Going
into it with acceptance and curiosity. Best thing you can do.
I think I'm familiar with a lot of these different treatments, but a lot of them I haven't done. So I'm kind of hoping I'm going to be able to try something new. And because I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to, because my whole thing is being authentic and vulnerable. But for me, cognitive behavioral therapy really isn't my thing. And I've done a lot of it. I go through all of my benefits every year, seeing psychologists, psychiatrists, but and nothing against cognitive behavior therapy. It's saved lives. But for me, speaking for an hour and then spending 3 sessions with somebody, just barely getting in, and them just repeating back to me what I told them doesn't really work for me. So I need some other things to work. And that's just me. So again, I have some psychologist friends that I know have saved lives. But for me, it's just not or maybe I just haven't connected with the right therapist yet. But I shouldn't say that. God, I hope my current psychologist doesn't see this, because I just basically called him up. But no, he's really good. And yeah, actually I do connect with him. You have to find out what that is that really works for you, that makes you feel better. And if you tried something that doesn't work, just try something else. Try a new thing.
Because there's tons of things.
Tons of things that are out there. And unfortunately, I know a lot of organizations, they only condone, 1 or 2 of them, where, all you're going to do is, you have to see this therapy. You need to see the department therapist. That's all we're going to approve you for. They're not, most places aren't really big on, we're going to get you high on LSD, and then we're going to do some guided therapy while you're high on acid. That most places aren't going to condone that. But for some people, and I know some people, that is what seriously helped and worked for them. So you really have to find what wangs your chung, so to speak. It's an old reference from the 80s, but
I'm an 80s kid too. I think we are running out of time here, but
wow, Krista, every time I talk to you, the time just goes by. It's like there's time doubles in speed.
I do want to get to this new piece of art that you just did, your recent release, Into the Darkness. Yes. Tell us about this piece and tell us why it's.
Yeah, so this one I did last week, and it's if you first look at it, it just looks like a black screen. And when I posted it, it didn't really get that much traffic, because I think people saw it and thought, "Oh, Dan made a mistake. He didn't post anything." But if you look really, and if your brightness on your phone or your computer is turned too low, it will be completely black. But when it's properly exposed, you can see this really slight outline of a firefighter's nose. There's no color, but it's black, and you can barely see this firefighter's nose and his eyes. And when I wrote in it, it says sometimes you have to turn up your brightness to get the help that you need. right? So for those that saw that, if you take that picture, and it's on my Facebook page and it's on my dansunphotos.com page, if you have it up on your phone and increase the brightness on your phone, then this image of this firefighter comes up, and he looks very sad, and he's got a helmet, and his helmet says, "Help me." Right? So it's in the darkness where, if you see it where you just barely see his eyes and his nose, that's really the motivation for that one, was really to kind of show what it's like to be, deep in your trauma. You're surrounded, it's like quicksand, where you're really deep and surrounded by all this void of blackness, that there's nothing there. And people that were there when they looked at that picture and they saw it, I got emails from people saying, "Hey, Dan, this really triggered me, this picture, because this is exactly how I'm feeling." But it was, and God, I certainly don't want to trigger people with my artwork, but it really connected to them. And, some people took that image and they increased the brightness, then they posted it in the comments to really show what the image was like when you do turn up the brightness, where you can see that this firefighter needs help. Or the message is if you need help, sometimes you need to turn up your brightness sometimes, so that people can recognize you so you can get the help that you need. The message is to reach out and get help. It's just a super weird way to represent what it feels like to be in your darkness, because it's a really creepy picture. If you look at it, it's really spooky. Once you see the guy in it, it's quite spooky. And when you open it up and realize that his helmet says, "Help me," it's even more, I don't want to say it's creepy, but it's a strong message. So that, when I create artwork and I'm trying to portray a complex idea that I have, the more accurate that I can be in that final image to represent that idea, the more successful I think that image is. And that one for me is it's been the most accurate portrayal of a complex idea in artwork that I've tried to portray in a long time. That's one of my top 3 or 4 images that I've ever created, of my favorites.
And
because it's interactive.
And I don't think you realize there's a whole nother way of looking at that situation. There's a whole nother way of looking at that image from those of us that are trying to bring light to the situation, that are trying to get people to reach out. There's also our responsibility to reach in, our responsibility to recognize those who are in the darkness and who are unseen and who are just there, invisible, doing the work that they're doing. The other side of that is just as powerful as that. We have to look, we have to see, we have to go through the steps and the process to actually choose to see the suffering that's
before they disappear completely, right? Before they do disappear. Because most people, when they look at it, it looks like a black screen. You can't see the guy. And the idea is that he is disappearing. He's being swallowed and he's sinking into his darkness. And, once he completely sinks in there and disappears, that's suicide. He takes his life. So that picture and the look on his face, the emotion he has, is that, he's moments away from disappearing into that darkness completely.
And there's two ways.
Powerful picture. Yeah, there's 2 ways to look at that. Yeah, you're right.
2 ways to save that situation from happening. 2 ways to stop it.
Yeah. So I really want to print that and put it in my gallery, but I'm not quite sure how to, because you really can't turn up the brightness when you print it off and put it in the gallery, right? Unless I'll have to really make sure that that there's a way that you can really have to look really, really closely, very subtle, to see that what it says in his helmet.
Or cover up the second version.
Or you have to shine a flashlight on it or something. Ooh. I think if you shine a flashlight, then you can see it. You could do it on acrylic paper or acrylic with silver paper. That might work. But the brightness on it's would have to be really accurate to make that effect come up. But I love that picture. I'm very proud of that one.
So this is the beginning, potentially, of a whole new fun series of playing with
interactive artwork. I'll have some other ideas about that, but we'll see. Stay tuned. Follow my Facebook and just to see.
So again, if you do not know or have not seen his artwork, you absolutely need to go spend some time perusing some pieces. I'll be showing a few more pieces. I've been using a few lately on my page, so you may have already gotten curious and snuck over. But if you haven't, please do that and follow his Facebook page. And do you have an Instagram also?
Yes. I think it's Dansun Photos on my Instagram.
Okay, so he's easy to find.
That's on there too. Yeah, if you just Google Dansun, Google DANSUN, I'll pop up all over the place there.
And anything else that you want to leave people with today?
Yeah, just be kind, everybody. Just be nice. You know, it's through COVID. We're finally at the tail end of COVID, and people I find are really on edge. You go to the grocery store and people are, I think you guys are a bit more open in the States than we are up here in Canada. Things are starting to open up here, but people are just kind of getting used to how to properly behave in public again. So let's just give each other some leeway and just practice some kindness that could go a long way.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Krista. It was a lot of fun.
And I can't wait to talk to you again. Yeah. We'll have to do coffee.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, Diet Coke.
Yeah, Diet Coke, yeah. It's my only vice. That's how I get my caffeine.
All right. Have a great evening. I'm going to pop you off. And for all of you guys watching tonight or watching the replay, I just want to remind you that we have a Battle to Be fundraiser going on, and we are working on raising the funds to purchase 100 of our Remember coins for our Remember plaques to go out to families of the fallen. And we currently have a waiting list of over 5,000 qualified families, and we would absolutely love to see that first 100 going out before the end of August. So we're currently $400 short on that, and I'm going to be posting that Facebook link in our Battle to Be Facebook page. So if you guys are feeling inspired to help us with our journey of access, awareness, healing, and change, please do that. Every dollar counts. Every share counts. We can't do the work that we do without you. So please do that. And then also please look up Dansun Photos on Facebook. You will not be sorry. You will absolutely love what you find. So have a fantastic evening, and never be afraid to reach out. I am always a message away.